All right. So, um, Killer Mike has this television show. By the way, this is Sam Sim, right? But I'm over by our buddy's house yesterday. Actually, the day before yesterday, watching Killer Mike's episodes on Netflix. Actually, I didn't know that he had a show. So, my homeboy put me on the show, which is, what we would call the runaway slave, the street dude. We're over by his house, right? And he's like, Sam, I got something for you to watch. Since you always talking about the black community. And, he puts on Killer Mike's show. And this show is basically talking about segregation and how money flowed, within the period of segregation. And basically how black folks had to barter with each other and, buy goods from each other and, use services from each other. So, he brings this up because, I always talk about black businesses and things like that. There was a few things in that movie, but there's a few things in that particular episode that, I pointed out that was very interesting. And then it shows that it'll be hard for us to ever get anywhere in the community. Now, with Killer Mike, the first thing I noticed, I was like, well, the people who are really, around him and, supporting him financially, mainly the ones who attend his shows are his booking agent, his manager, appears to be of another race. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, that's besides the point. We're talking about black businesses and, things like that. But the money isn't trickling down from anyone black, first of all. Now, I think, honestly, his method of, going about, spending money with black businesses, I think it was, a little bit over exaggerated. He went overboard, because, at one point he did go to a restaurant. It was a, rib shack, and, there's a lot of food there that he ordered. Obviously, he was hungry. He was in Athens, Georgia, and there were no hotels, so he slept on a park bench. There weren't any restaurants, so he wasn't eating, obviously. So he went to this rib shack, and he's sitting there with a Caucasian guy who's, I guess, in his group. But, the white guy, he's eating. He's talking about his experience at the hotel. He ordered lobster the previous night. Killer Mike doesn't seem too thrilled about that. So, after they order, he gets ready to eat. And, the white guy's like, well, what about the actual livestock? The cows. I mean, did it come from a black farm? So, basically, he didn't eat the food. The next day, he went to a barber, got his hair cut from a black barber, learned about some of the businesses in the area, which were black at one time. He ended up at a community center, and in the community center, they grew crops in the backyard, so there were vegetation, fields that were out there, different gardens. So the lady who grew the actual vegetables in the garden, she lived across the way, and she is about, I guess, maybe 83, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe she's anywhere between her mid 80s to maybe mid 90s. But they ended up going by her house, and that's the part that really got me, is because what she said, is a bit matriarchal. I never knew that, anyone else looked at it, in regards to the 3 steps. I actually explained it in one of my videos, and I searched around to see if anybody said anything about that, and how those 3 steps are broken down. And I haven't really come across it. So I found it interesting that this matriarchal woman, she said that, the best way to operate in a black community is individually, family, and as a, group, third. As a community, third. which, obviously other races do not work or operate that way. And, when she said that, I was sitting down on the couch and I said, see, that right there, because when I talk about these things to my homeboy, he always brings up the point. Well, man, look, he has money. He's a rapper. He has more opportunity to support the community, than you do. Like he has a bigger, wider range. Yeah, I mean, just because he has the funds to do it, like Lil Boosie and all of these other rappers that he brings up, even though they have the funds to do it, are they doing it in the right way? But I'm not complaining about it. I just focus on the issue. But, I never like to get into these conversations with him because, what he'll do is, he'll get off the topic and he'll start talking about personal stuff. Well, look at the cars that, Lil Boosie drives. Look at the trains that he has. He has money. When you have money, you can go your own way and do whatever. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can. Obviously, you can. But that is what keeps the community as it is. I tell you what, in regards to my Right to Leave Part 2 video, I'll go. Like, I'll go and I'll come back in 30 years, and I can assure you, if you keep going this way, if you keep operating this way, the community is not going to get any better. In fact, it's going to get 10 times worse. Seriously. So, when she said, individual, you work as an individual first, family second, and, community third, it just had me thinking, like, wow, she actually broke down those 3 steps and, it's in a jacked up order. I mean, I would say that it would be a good idea to at least have a family business. A lot of people cannot work with their families, and I understand that. But, the integrity of your community comes first. The reputation of your community comes first. Making sure that we don't suffer any plights, making sure that we aren't put on the back burner as a group, making sure that we aren't the butt of the jokes anymore. Like just simple things like that is community. Sure, you can't work with people of your own race a lot of times, quite understandable, but there should be a group of people that you are able to work with, and that is a community. Because like even with my homeboy, the street dude, I mean, he talks about the hustlers and how they making more money, and he's showing me videos of like drug dealers helping old ladies across the street, and he's like, I know what you about to say, why they gotta take and record it. So you gotta record stuff like this because if you don't record it, it's never talked about. Like, sure, it's talked about. If he's a decent person, it's going to be talked about. But, I mean, still, that's besides the point. That drug dealer is not working with a group of other drug dealers in the community that, basically they've torn down, and they're trying to leave like everybody else. They help destroy the community, but yet they want to leave the community and go to a better environment. I mean, it sounds a little cliche if you ask me. But, the individual shit, I get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand why black people, tend to work as an individual first. And I mean, it just shows how separated we are. And, I feel like we can't love anyone else unless we love ourselves. I look at the world in a bigger perspective. And, even the way I look at the world, I know it'll never get there. Because, the way I look at the world, I look at us all as humans, especially when what I like to do is I like to go on NASA's YouTube channel. And, sometimes I'll watch, like, shuttles orbit from space, or I'll watch the view from space in the International Space Station or something like that, So, looking at those images, it always makes me think like, well, wow, in comparison to other planets, I mean, we would be considered the human race, and, if they were to come here, they wouldn't give a fuck, about black man versus white man versus the Hispanic man versus the Asian man. They wouldn't give a fuck about that. You guys are all humans. You guys are all Homo sapiens. So, we would, basically be viewed as earthlings. So, we can't get there. we could definitely not get there if we can't get together, as a community, and then start to operate with other communities, have a decent reputation where other communities trust and want to operate with you, and extend it from there. But all in all, like, I enjoyed that episode from the Killer Mike, segments. I watched all of them. I spent about maybe 5 hours over there, and some of the other episodes were quite interesting, especially the one about the Crips. The Crips and the blood, the Cripacola, and the blood pop. That actual episode I enjoyed. The other ones, see, there aren't any that really stand out besides those two. I seen one where it markets porn, which I was watching. It wasn't really anything I was too interested in, and the other one that he did was in regards to. It was in regards to religion, and that was the third episode that came on. Actually, it came on right after the one focused on segregation. The second one was on the Cripacola blood pop situation, which was quite interesting, and I'll get back to that one in a minute. But when the third episode came on, and it talked about religion. At the beginning, when they were introducing the prelude of the show, I was hyped. I was like, man, let's see what he talks about. Because on religion, I don't really make any statements. I'm not open about it because I think that's it's a topic that we can kind of like get around because there's bigger problems that we need to deal with. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to a lot of people. I don't want to be disrespectful. Coming across a certain way, speaking about religion. So I leave the topic alone. There's bigger problems. Once we get our problems together, and I've always felt that way too. Once I get my situations together, I can have, that time to spend with God. Like in the Bible, it says faith without works is dead. A man doesn't work, a man doesn't eat. I mean, there's different parables, there's different verses in the Bible, but this particular episode, just went kind of like way off topic. It was basically they wanted to start their own religion. They had Sleepy Brown on there, and he was supposed to be the Messiah, and all of these other folks, going to this church that they've created. Which, see, I was thinking that maybe he was going to remove religion, period, or attempt to remove religion from the black community as a whole. So back to the Cripacola and blood pop. That particular episode, I kind of knew what was going to happen. Like they compared the Crips to Hell's Angels, stating that if Hell's Angels can make money, if Hell's Angels can be rebels, and they're able to market their brand, and why can't the Crips and the Bloods? And when they said that, I was like, yeah, you know what, you're absolutely correct. The bad guys are always considered the the underdog. You can go back as far as Jesse James, most recently, any gangster movie, Scarface, Minister Society, the bad guy is always rooted for. So, with that being said, they said, well, what, we're going to market this soda. So, he went to the trap house, talked to, some of his Crip homies, and decided to make this cola. They couldn't market it in a lot of the stores, obviously, because, Crips are associated with black-on-black crime or, urban crime. And then, I mean, it's definitely different from Hell's Angels. Here we have a motorcycle club. I mean, maybe out in California, Los Angeles, San Diego, Long Beach area, you might see some, Crips who have like lowrider cars. They may be part of a, a lowrider gang, lowrider clique, whatever they call it out there. But, for the most part, the vast majority of these guys are not riding around in lowrider cars. Hell's Angel, if you're a Hell's Angel, for the most part, you're riding a motorbike. So, it feeds into, the whole Harley Davidson culture and things like that. Crips aren't associated with, another, type of hobby other than violence and gangs and, fuck the other color. So a lot of stores would not sell that particular pop. So what they needed was unity. And that's the first thing I thought, like, yeah, you can't sell one without the other. That's just plain and simple. So, as I'm watching this, I'm watching these Crips, try to sell their drink. They go to a marketing meeting, and they let a group of people test their drink while they sit behind a wall, and they're watching everybody talk about the drink, and then they pull out the label and show what it's about, and then a lot of people are like, oh wow, you can get killed just for having this, and just for buying this inside of a store. People know who you're affiliated with, and you can get killed. So I was like, yeah, you need the unity. Can't have one brand without the other brand when you're talking about Bloods and Crips. So, then Killer Mike, ding, the bell went off. He caught in the flattest, and he decided to go to the other side of town and link up with some Bloods, So, they came up with hoodies, they had the Blood Pop, they had the Cripicola, and as black men, they were able to get along and sell their drinks respectfully, under the same, distribution, Bloods and Crips, and both, products were sold right side by side, and a lot of the stores at the end, you can sell both of them, but you can't sell one without the other. So, with that being said, like working individually, as a Crips, you can't really get anywhere. But when you have, a market behind you, that's strong and it's networked, with other rivals, then I guess it does work. I got to get ready to start my day off. I wanted to do a video about that. I really did, because, I've heard Killer Mike over the years say some things, and a lot of things I do agree with him on. I just didn't know that he had a show, and that was a real treat. That was cool. But let me go ahead and get out of here. You guys be safe. Sam, peace.